My loving audience take my love and subscribes my channel. And dive B&B stories. Was Katie really trying to protect Will? Or has she gone way too far? And now that Dylan's mom Darcy is coming to Los Angeles, could everything Katie believes about Dylan suddenly change? Something big is happening on The Bold and the Beautiful, and honestly, the timing could not be more interesting. Dylan's mother, Darcy Dylan, played by Kelly Sullivan, is set to arrive in Los Angeles, with her first appearance scheduled for August 27th. And she is walking into town at exactly the moment Katie Spencer is already questioning Dylan's motives. That is a huge problem, because Katie has already made up her mind. She does not trust Dylan around Will. She thinks Dylan took advantage of a vulnerable situation. She has questioned Dylan's past and even used her real name, Melissa, during one confrontation. But here is the part that makes me stop and think. What if Katie is right to be suspicious, but completely wrong about how she is handling it? There is a big difference between protecting your son and trying to control his love life. And Will may soon be forced to show Katie where he stands. Katie did not suddenly wake up one morning and decide that Dylan was dangerous. There is a reason she feels this way. She watched Will's relationship with Electra fall apart. She saw her son get hurt. Then Dylan became closer and closer to him. From Katie's point of view, the timing looks bad. Really bad. Dylan came into Will's life when he was already emotionally vulnerable. That alone is enough to make a protective mother suspicious. But here is where Katie may be making a mistake. Once you decide someone is a threat, every little thing they do starts looking like proof. Maybe that is what is happening with Katie. She is no longer looking at Dylan with an open mind. She is looking for reasons not to trust her. And that can become dangerous. Earlier in the story, Dylan was struggling financially and did not have a stable situation. Will stepped in to help her. She became connected to Will and Electra's living situation. And that created tension even before the romance became the main issue. That matters. Because Dylan did not simply walk into Will's life as a random new love interest. She entered during a crisis. And people can become very attached to the person who helps them when they are at their lowest. Katie knows that. She also knows that Will could mistake feeling needed for being in love. But I have to say this. Katie may be forgetting one very important thing. Will is allowed to make mistakes. He is allowed to make his own choices. He is allowed to fall for the wrong person. And the harder Katie tries to keep Dylan away, the more likely Will may be to defend her. We have all seen this happen. Tell someone, you cannot be with that person. And suddenly they want that person even more. Why? Because now the relationship feels like something they have to fight for. That could be exactly what Katie is creating. She thinks she is pushing Will toward safety. She could actually be pushing him closer to Dylan. And now Darcy is coming. That changes everything. Until now, Dylan has had to defend herself. Electra has confronted her. Katie has questioned her. Will has tried to support her. But Darcy is different. She is Dylan's mother. And if she hears that her daughter has been judged, attacked, or treated like the villain, do you really think she is going to sit back and say nothing? I don't think so. Darcy's arrival could completely change the balance. Recent spoilers have pointed to Darcy entering the story at a time when the conflict surrounding Dylan, Will, Electra, and Katie is already boiling over. Her arrival is expected to put even more pressure on the situation. And that timing feels very deliberate. Why bring Dylan's mother into the story now? Because somebody may know something the others don't. Think about that for a second. Katie has one version of Dylan. Electra has another. Will sees her differently. Dylan obviously has her own version of the truth. But Darcy has known her daughter for years. Could she reveal something that changes the entire picture? That is the question I cannot get out of my head. And I don't think we should automatically assume Darcy will make Dylan look completely innocent. That would be too easy. Dylan has made questionable choices. She developed feelings for Will while knowing he was with Electra. She got closer to him while his relationship was already falling apart. And eventually that crossed a line. Electra was devastated. She confronted Dylan and even slapped her after learning about Dylan and Will's intimacy. So no, Dylan cannot simply walk into this situation and say she did nothing wrong. She did make choices. And some of those choices hurt people. But here is the thing. Dylan can have made bad choices and still genuinely love Will. Both things can be true. That is what makes this story interesting. Everybody seems to want a simple villain. Katie thinks Dylan is the problem. Electra feels betrayed by Dylan. Dylan feels like nobody understands her. Will believes his feelings are real. But real life is not that simple. And neither is a soap opera. Katie can be a loving mother and still become too controlling. Electra can be deeply hurt and still react emotionally. Dylan can make selfish decisions and still have genuine feelings. And Will can love Dylan while also making a terrible choice. That is why I think this storyline is bigger than a normal love triangle. It is really about loyalty. Who do you choose when everyone expects something different from you? Do you choose your family? Do you choose the person you love? Do you choose the person who needs you? Or do you finally choose yourself? Will is getting closer and closer to that decision. And honestly, I don't think he is ready for it. Will has been caught between everybody else's emotions. Katie has an opinion. Electra has an opinion. Dylan has an opinion. Bill has an opinion. Even the old Spencer and Forrester family tension adds pressure. But what does Will actually want? That is the question that has not been answered clearly enough. And Darcy could force him to answer it. Now let's talk about Katie. Because I think there is something deeper going on with her. Katie's behavior may not really be about Dylan. It may be about fear. She is afraid of losing Will. She is afraid he will get hurt. She is afraid he will make a decision she cannot undo. And when a parent gets scared, control can feel like protection. That is what Katie may be doing. She cannot control Will's heart. She cannot control Electra. She cannot control Dylan. So she tries to control the situation. But Will is growing up. He cannot stay under Katie's protection forever. At some point he has to make his own choices. And Katie may be about to learn that the hard way. The funny thing is, Katie could accidentally create the exact situation she is trying to prevent. If she keeps attacking Dylan, Will may stop telling her the truth. If he starts hiding things from Katie, their relationship could suffer. And once a child starts seeing a parent as an obstacle instead of a safe place, repairing that relationship can be very difficult. That is why Katie needs to be careful. She may win the argument and lose the trust. And which one matters more? Now let's bring Darcy into this. Imagine Darcy walks into Los Angeles and immediately hears about Katie's concerns. Imagine Katie says she doesn't trust Dylan. Then Darcy says, "You don't know my daughter." That could be explosive. Because Katie has been judging Dylan based on what she has seen. Darcy knows Dylan on a much deeper level. But that does not automatically mean Darcy is right. Mothers can be protective too. They can defend their children even when their children are wrong. So Darcy could make things even more complicated. What happens when two mothers believe they are protecting their children? Katie wants to protect Will. Darcy wants to protect Dylan. Neither one wants to back down. And suddenly a romantic problem becomes a family war. That is where Will could really get trapped. If Katie attacks Darcy, Will may feel like he has to defend Dylan. But if Will defends Dylan, Katie may think Dylan has already manipulated him. See how quickly this can spiral. One argument creates another. One side takes a step forward. The other side feels attacked. And suddenly everybody is fighting about something bigger than the original problem. That is classic bold and the beautiful territory. And I think Will may eventually reach his breaking point. Because he has been quiet for too long. He has watched other people argue about his relationship. He has listened to warnings. He has heard accusations. But eventually he needs to speak for himself. Not as Katie's son. Not as Electra's ex. Not as Dylan's protector. Just as Will. That could be the moment everything changes. Now let's talk about Electra. Because she is not going to disappear from this story. Electra has every reason to be angry. She was hurt. She felt betrayed by Dylan. And she watched someone she trusted become involved with the man she loved. That kind of betrayal does not disappear overnight. But I think Electra has another problem. She cannot blame Dylan forever. Will made choices too. That is something everybody needs to remember. Dylan did not force Will into a relationship. Will participated. Will had feelings. Will made decisions. So if Electra keeps putting all the blame on Dylan, she may be avoiding the harder truth. Will was also responsible for what happened. And accountability is much harder than anger. Anger gives you somebody to blame. Accountability makes you look at the whole situation. That could be Electra's next emotional challenge. And Darcy's arrival might force that issue. If Darcy defends Dylan, Electra may push back. She could say Dylan knew exactly what she was doing. Dylan could argue that Will was not something Electra owned. Katie could get involved. Then Will could finally lose his patience. That is the scene I am waiting for. Because Will cannot stay in the middle forever. At some point he has to choose what he believes. And his decision could shock everybody. Now let's look at Dylan from another angle. What if she really does love Will? Not because she wants his money. Not because she wants revenge. Not because she wants to destroy Electra. What if her feelings are genuine? That would make everything much harder. Because then Katie cannot simply dismiss her as a manipulator. But Dylan still has to take responsibility for the way she handled the situation. That is important. If Dylan wants viewers to understand her, she needs to be honest. She needs to admit that she crossed a line. She needs to admit that Electra was hurt. She needs to stop pretending everything happened without consequences. And Darcy could actually help her do that. A good mother does not just defend her child. Sometimes a good mother tells her child the truth. Darcy could say, "Yes, you love Will. But that does not mean everything you did was right." That would be powerful. Because Dylan needs somebody who can challenge her, not just protect her. And there may be something deeper behind Dylan's attachment to Will. Think about her past. She has struggled with instability. She has felt like an outsider. She has had financial problems. She has been searching for somewhere to belong. So what if Will's attention means more to her than romance? What if he represents safety? A home? Acceptance? A family? That could explain why her feelings became so intense so quickly. Maybe Dylan is not only chasing Will. And that's why Darcy's arrival feels so important. There is also something else I would love to see. What if Darcy doesn't tell Dylan the secret first? What if Electra finds out first? That would be explosive. Imagine Electra learning that Dylan is connected to the Forresters before Dylan even knows the truth. Now Electra has a choice. Does she tell Dylan? Does she hide it? Does she use it against her? Or does she pretend she never heard it? Personally, I think Electra hiding the information would create even more drama. Because Electra might realize that knowing Dylan's secret gives her leverage. She could pretend to be friendly. She could suddenly stop fighting with Dylan. She could even act like she wants to welcome her. But behind closed doors she could start digging. That would be much more dangerous than Electra simply screaming at Dylan. A loud enemy is easy to see. A smiling enemy is much harder to figure out. And psychologically it would fit Electra if she feels that she is losing control. She might decide that attacking Dylan openly isn't the best strategy anymore. Instead, she could try to find out everything about her. Who is her father? What does Darcy know? Why was the secret kept? And can Electra use any of it to protect her own position? That's where this could get really messy. And then there is Will. His reaction could tell us a lot about his relationship with Dylan. Will has already been willing to defend her. But what happens when her family history suddenly becomes a huge issue? Will could find himself caught between his mother's concerns and his feelings for Dylan. Katie could tell him that this proves Dylan has been hiding something. Will could argue that Dylan didn't even know. And honestly, Will should be judged by what he does next. If he really loves Dylan, he should support her regardless of her last name. If she is a Forrester, that shouldn't change his feelings. But if he suddenly treats her differently because she has a powerful family connection, then Dylan may start questioning the relationship. And that would be another great twist. Because Dylan doesn't need someone who loves her because of her family name. She needs someone who loves her for who she is. That's why I think this possible secret should be used to test Will too. It shouldn't just make their relationship easier. It should make it harder. That's how we find out whether the relationship is real. Now here's my biggest prediction. I don't think Darcy's arrival is going to solve Dylan's problems. I think it is going to create bigger ones. If the Forrester theory turns out to be true, Darcy's revelation could set off a chain reaction involving Katie, Electra, Will, RJ, Ridge, and possibly other members of the family. And even if Dylan isn't a Forrester, Darcy can still completely shake things up by exposing how badly her daughter has been treated. Either way, she matters. And the timing matters. Dylan's past has become one of the biggest mysteries around her. So bringing her mother into the story now makes perfect sense. Something is coming. We just don't know exactly what yet. And that is what makes this fun. Could Darcy really tell Electra that Dylan is a Forrester? Right now, that's still a theory. The confirmed part is that Darcy is coming to town, and current spoiler reports point toward her getting involved in the growing problems surrounding Dylan, Katie, and Electra. But if the writers really do choose the Forrester reveal, I think they should take their time with it. Don't give us every answer in one scene. Give us clues. Give us arguments. Give us suspicious looks. Let Darcy almost reveal the truth and then stop. Let Electra discover one piece of information. Let Dylan find another. And then when the final truth finally comes out, make it impossible for anyone to ignore. Because the biggest question isn't simply whether Dylan is a Forrester. The bigger question is this: why was the truth hidden? That is where the real story is. Maybe Darcy was protecting Dylan. Maybe she was protecting herself. Maybe she was protecting someone else. Or maybe she was afraid of what would happen if the Forresters ever found out. And if that's the case, then Dylan's family connection could come with a painful history. She might finally get the family name she never knew she had. But she could also discover that being a Forrester isn't the happy ending she imagined. Blood doesn't always mean acceptance. And family doesn't always mean peace. This family has a long history of secrets, betrayals, rivalries, and complicated relationships. So Dylan could finally get what she never knew she was missing. Dylan could be a Forrester. And if that truth finally comes out, the way everyone sees her could change overnight. But one thing is certain. Dylan's past is becoming impossible to ignore. And Darcy may be the person who finally opens the door. When she does, don't be surprised if the biggest shock isn't just who Dylan's father is. It may be why Darcy kept the truth hidden for so many years. Because sometimes the secret itself isn't the most dangerous part. It's the reason someone was desperate enough to keep it. And that is exactly why I think Darcy's arrival could become one of the most important developments in Dylan's story. The real question now is simple. What does Darcy know? And how far will she go to protect her daughter? We may not have the full answer yet. But if Darcy finally decides to tell Electra the truth, the fallout could reach much farther than anyone expects. And when the Forresters are involved, you already know one thing. A family secret never stays quiet for long. And that is why I think viewers need to watch Darcy very carefully. Because she may know something nobody else knows. The truth about Dylan before Los Angeles. And that truth could completely change the way everyone sees her. Now here is another possibility. What if Katie and Darcy actually have more in common than they realize? Both are mothers. Both are protective. Both believe they know what is best for their children. And both can become intense when they believe their child is being hurt. That is the irony. They could become enemies for the exact same reason. Love. But love can become possessive when fear gets mixed into it. Katie's fear is losing Will. Do you think Katie is right about Dylan? Or has she become too controlling because she is afraid of losing Will? And what do you think Darcy is going to reveal when she arrives? Do you think she will expose something shocking about Dylan's past? Or will she simply defend her daughter and make the situation even more explosive? And here is the biggest question of all. If Will truly loves Dylan, should he choose her even if Katie refuses to support the relationship? Or should family come first when the people closest to you are warning you about someone? Personally, I think Will needs to stop letting everybody else make this decision for him. If he loves Dylan, he needs to say it. If he still has feelings for Electra, he needs to admit that too. But sitting quietly while Katie, Darcy, Dylan, and Electra fight around him is not going to solve anything. Eventually, silence becomes a choice. And that choice could cost Will both love and family. Darcy Dylan's arrival could be the moment this entire story changes direction. And if she really knows something about Dylan's past that nobody in Los Angeles has discovered yet, Katie may be the one who gets the biggest shock of all. So keep watching because this family battle may only be getting started. And if you enjoyed this bold and the beautiful spoiler breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Most importantly, tell me what you think down in the comments. Is Katie protecting Will? Or is she pushing him away? Is Dylan really in love with Will? Or is there something else driving her? And when Darcy finally arrives, whose side do you think she will take? Because once Dylan's mother enters this fight, the whole game could change.